I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Industrial Community Development Subcommittee, please. Sitting in tonight is myself as chair. Councilor O'Neill, will you sit in for Councilor Sasslaw, please?
Yes.
Councilor McGinn is here, Councilor Rossignol, and Councilor Sharris. If we remember, we asked, at the last subcommittee meeting, we asked Mr. Bellavance and Ms. Cameron to modify a request of the bag thickness and specifications, and I'd like to call up either Mr. Bellavance, I guess, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Good evening. Kurt Bellavance, Community Development Director, along with Sharon Cameron, Director of Health. Yes, I believe at the last subcommittee meeting, we had submitted a plastic bag reduction ordinance, and in that there were some questions in regards to some of the language, most specifically a definition on reusable bag. So what we had done was we took the information that Councilor McGinn had provided and basically modified that language to meet some of the questions that he had addressed in regards to what types of plastics, how we could better describe a reusable bag. So the language now that we had drafted in there, I have the old one here in front of me. So now and I'll just read it and then I'll kind of go over what the difference was. So as defined in the ordinance would be reusable bag, a sewn bag with stitch handles that one can carry 25 pounds over a distance of 300 feet. Two is either A, made of cloth or other machine washable fabric, or B, made of plastic other than polyethylene. And it lists HDPE, LDPE, PETE, etc., which are basically descriptions of or shortened descriptions of types of plastic, or polyvinyl chloride that is durable, non-toxic, and is at least 5 mils in thickness or greater. So what we want to do is at least define that a reusable bag wasn't a typical plastic that could be reused. It had handles, it was either sewn, so we wanted to better define that so when retail establishments were using reusable bags, we had a better definition on that. So it's something that we could, if we needed to be enforced, we could do that with a stronger definition. I believe that was the main difference that we had put together in regards to that.
Thank you, Mr. Bellavance. Councilor McGinn, because you requested a possible modification, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So yes, that is the only change between what we reviewed before and what we have before us tonight. I did look over the change in detail, and I am quite comfortable with the definition as proposed by the Director of Health and Community Development. So I plan to support this as written. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor McGinn, would you help us with receiving late communication, please? There are two separate packages in regards to tonight's meeting. One is from a resident, Mary Murphy.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Chairman, move to receive late communication dated October 21st, 2019 from Mary Murphy and refer to this matter. So moved.
Heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. One more, Councilor McGinn, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move to receive late communication from Jack Harrington, which is not dated, but appears to be a 19-page handout with a cover sheet. So moved.
Motion by Councilor McGinn. All in favor? Any opposed? Vote. Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Is there any discussion? Yes, Councilor Sharris, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have a couple questions for my understanding on this. On the reusable bag, sewn bag handles, the stitch handles, is there a reasoning behind that one? through the chair to Councilor McGinn or to Kurt, either one who can answer.
I think Kurt might be able to help us with that. Please.
Yes, there are all types of bags you're probably aware of. So what we did was we pulled language from other different ordinances, from the Sierra Club as well. And so the way they would manufacture, because you can have a plastic bag, but if it's like a sewn or stitched, that makes a difference than like a single molded bag. So the difference is we just want to make sure there's a better description in there in regards to what type of bag it is. So you've seen, and I think we had some examples at the last meeting of some of those types of bags, which are made of plastic materials, but they look almost like a fabric, or they look like a sewn or stitched bag. So that's the difference between like a single-use bag and one that you could be reusable, and that could be washed and cleaned.
So my thoughts is, and I understand, thank you, that if something a handle could not be cut out of a material to use that would not qualify, correct?
I think if it met the mills, so the thickness, then it would qualify.
Yeah,
I believe.
But what if, and this, want to make sure I got it right, because some of the conversations I had, some of the retailers, the bags they had, disqualified because they were not hand-stitched handles. Every other part of the bag met the qualifications, but because the handles weren't stitched, they couldn't be used. So I don't want to fall into that just because the handle wasn't stitched. The other part, like if it's a cloth bag with an opening cut out, would that meet the specifications? And the other question I have is machine washable. Why? Is it truly machine washable, or would it be a material that was hand washed? I don't want to get into an area that there's a lot of crafters out there who make different, recyclable bags and things. I don't want them to be penalized because the materials they use are not able to withstand a machine washed. Can you elaborate on that or help me out with that?
I think the definition of that is it's sort of a general description, so something that would be washable, not something that would be, something that could be cleaned and used on a regular basis. And it does say or, and then it gives you, like there's several options of the bag, so they're not specifically saying one type of bag. So they're saying, can carry 25 pounds over 300 feet, or either is made of cloth or machine washable fabric, or made of plastic other than these types of plastics. So there's several types of different bags that you could use, and they're just trying to describe what those types of bags could be.
So if it was made of cloth, but it wasn't machine washable for any particular reason, it would still qualify?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sharas. Councilor Rossignol, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just motion to receive item 8E.
You heard the motion by Councilor Rossignol. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. No discussion, Councilor Rossignol. Any other councilors care to ask Mr. Bellavance or Health Director Cameron? Do you have anything you'd like to add? Please. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Turco, please, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. When would this be scheduled to take effect if it passes this evening?
I think the process is we'd have to send it out to advertising, and then it'd come back with a public hearing in regards to the ordinance. And then at that point, I think the last time we had talked about a 6-month.
Looking at the July 1 implementation.
Yeah.
Okay, right, that's the date I was looking for.
Yeah.
July 1st,
July 1st.
2020.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Health Director Cameron, would you like to add anything, please?
I just wanted to add the issue about washability. That's for reasons of food safety and sanitation. We want to make sure that whatever bags, they can either be put into a machine to be washed if they're made of a cloth fabric, or if they're made of a plastic, they can be hand washed and surface cleaned and things like that. But it is for reasons of food safety.
Thank you, Ms. Cameron. Appreciate it. If I may, I've made the conversion from plastic to reusable bags, recyclable bags, at the instigation of my own children. My children were front and center on helping me get over the reliance on plastic and come to my own recyclable bags, and it has been a truly enlightening thing for me and my family. We use them all the time. Every week I wash my bags in my washing machine, and it's so easy to do now, and I'm sure most residents will find the same thing. That's enough about me. Anybody else like to comment? If not, I'd like to receive a motion. Councilor McGinn, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to advertise the ordinance, which as the version of the ordinance in accordance with the communication from the Director of Community Development and Director of the Health Department dated October 16th, 2019. So moved.
That's sufficient. Councilor McGinn, can you add a date of implementation, please, on that, which is July 1st, 2020?
With a implementation date of July 1st, 2020.
Thank you. You heard the motion by Councilor McGinn. Roll call, please.
Councilors O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Charist, Gould.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bellavance, Ms. Cameron. Thank you so much for your help with this. I know Green Peabody is going to be happy. Thank you. Next on the docket is item number 2, and that is proposed ordinance regarding commercial kitchen and catering, and we're going to keep that in subcommittee. Mr. Bellavance still has some work to do on that. And item number 3, communication from Mr. George Smith, 83 Bartholomew Street, regarding Hillside Protection. Mr. Smith, please. If you'd please come to the podium, press the red button, or the button once. You don't have to press it again. And identify yourself for the record, although we all know who you are.
I'm quite sure. Yes, my name's George Smith, and I live at 83 Bartholomew Street in Peabody. And I'm here tonight to foster your support, the city's support, for a bill that's in the State House, and that is on hillside protection. The purpose of hillside protection is to specify conditions of any type of hillside development to ensure that these areas retain their unique characteristics, to safeguard the natural features of the city, and to protect the public health, welfare, and safety of the city. Land that is sloped from 0 to 15% does not generally pose any problems for development. However, ridgetops lands, while relatively flat, are often narrow and drain to areas with steep slopes and unstable soils. Using Peabody as an example, I do not believe the city was aware of the issues, the problems, nor the destruction that has come from the hillside development projects in South Peabody. Currently under construction, or the one prior that was built in 1992 to 94. Many residents were upset at the perceived lack of public review and the appropriate approval process of such a highly visible projects. Back then, the planning board and the other boards that were involved did not extend the open meeting process. Usually the open meetings were held on one night at most and were closed to the public. So they had very little input into these projects. And it was very frustrating for everybody. Another South Peabody project that was on Antonio Drive has led to an impact on an area and in the environment. The Hillside Acres, which was built in 1992 to 94, reduced the hillside by 40 feet and permitted a total of 50 homes. While the blasting was not as extensive as Boulderwood, it bankrupted 2 developers during the course of the build. The city and the financing bank had to find someone to complete the project and extended the project by several months. The current Boulderwood project development has reduced the height by 60 feet and the roadway cut into at least by 100 feet deep, and from the ridge line to the utility line. Over 1.5 miles of roadway had to be blasted into the hillside. Foundations for 105 homes had to be blasted into the rock, and that was on the Peabody side. That does not include Lynn. These 2 hillsides have forever changed the character of the neighborhood. Antonio Drive required some blasting and had the impact on Dog Pond to the extent that it now goes dry at least 3 times a year, which has led to it being overgrown with vegetation. All this and more in areas that were once considered non-buildable. Blasting and explosive technology available today can level any obstacle to development once deemed not possible. The destruction of Hillside has revealed that how the aquifer has been compromised. The shifting rock ledges threaten the residents now living in this subdivision with thick ice-covered ledge in the winter and water erosion the rest of the year. I have pictures of all of that that I can leave with you people, or you can pass around, whatever you want.
Motion to receive.
Thank you, Councilor Rosendahl. You heard the motion. All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
Already, there has been a lot of rockfall from rain permeating the soil or the natural water course on the ledge. The rock itself has shown signs of movement. Large cracks have formed or widened in the ledge. The need for the water tower was indicated as requirements of the supply and pressure sufficient to provide fire protection of the buildings was identified. The tower was designed and constructed to meet the standard and requirements, and the sheer size of the structure leaves thoughts of future projects on this hillside. The water tower is visible not just from many parts of the downtown and many arteries coming into the city, but from many miles in all directions. The developer claiming air rights of wireless communications on the facilities of this tower has blocked the city from revenues for many years to come. Telecommunication system has also been a concern for many residents because of the 1996 Telecommunications Act. Federal law protects private firms from more stringent and local ordinances. However, there may be some measures the city could adopt that would benefit the city in obtaining air rights. Many cities across the United States in areas where ridge and mountains have adopted Hillside Protection ordinance because of the unique characteristics and challenges of the topography has for land development. Many of the ordinance reviewed had common approaches for the reducing impact of development on steep slopes and hillsides. Those recommendations span a variety of standards and best management practices within the ultimate goal of limiting disturbances on hillside and ridgetop areas. Geotechnical studies should be called in for many slopes or exceed 30%. And according to a study by the American Forest, stormwater runoff costs were estimated, and this was in 2002, at $2 per cubic foot. So for all that water that's coming off of that development up there, the city is paying money to process that water, to clean it from the hillsides. So if you, not to mention the blasting damage that exists from surrounding properties, that the residents are not able to recover. I live down there, and I have felt my house shake on blasts that are over a mile away. I'm not a geologist. I'm not going to stand here and claim that I know everything about blasting and ground movement and so forth. I can't do that. But I know what I see, and I know what I feel. And when I'm in my house and they create a blast that's over a mile away and my property shakes, that's telling me that the ground sends those waves out in every direction. And there's going to be impact to everybody. Another thing that has occurred, if people don't know, Massachusetts has had 7 earthquakes since January. All of them under 3.0. The weakest was a 0.9. There was one off of Gloucester and another one off Nahant. Both of them were about 5 kilometers deep. But they affect the ground where we live. You may not feel it, but that ground shakes, it moves. You take a look at some of those pictures. There's a picture of a large rock that fell off of that hillside on Boulderwood. I can't stress enough the need for city officials to go up and look like John and I did one day. We went up there and looked at all the rock that's up there, and we were stunned. At least I was. I don't know about John. He was kind of, he was concerned about it as well. We need to do something to protect our hillsides. They're a feature. It's a natural feature. It's an attraction to the city. But we're losing them. We need to control the development that's going on. That's all I can come up with right now.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any councilors have any comments or questions? Yes, Councilor Turco, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on this committee, so thank you for allowing me to put my 2 cents in. So, first of all, I want to say thank you, George. George and I, over the years, have probably exchanged a dozen emails with regards to this one issue, and as he said, we've met up at the site, and George is largely responsible for, if you do happen to go up there, as soon as you turn onto Gedney from Bartholomew on the right-hand side, you'll see where, in those photographs, those large boulders had fallen, and through your advocacy, George, the city asked Mr. Solimini to build a retaining wall to separate where the falling rock was from the public sidewalk, and he did do that. There's still some concern with smaller pieces of ledge falling, but the reason I support this, and I support George for doing this, is multi. Number one, every time we blast, every time we destroy ledge, every time we destroy mountainsides, we divert water, and I think it was Council Rosendahl and Council Gould and I over at Mountain Terrace, Granite Road. We saw the flooding that occurred a year ago, August. We don't know where that water came from. As George said, none of us are experts, but that water wasn't there prior to the blasting, which occurred up at Gedney Drive with regards to Boulderwood. And you don't know where those veins are going to go once you start to blast into the ledge. We have the same problem. Currently, we have the Stonegate subdivision over on Ralph and Pearl. That's one of my major concerns. There's 75 days of blasting scheduled with that project, albeit small blasts, if there is such a thing, but that's what they call it, is smaller blasts every 5 days. Where that water goes, I don't know. I don't know if, does it go to Linfield Street, does it go to Bartholomew Street? The point I'm trying to make is, I support this. I hope that this council shows some support for Mr. Smith in the work that he's done. And I'm not able to file a motion, but I would ask that we send a letter of support to Councilor Walsh in regards, Representative Walsh, in regards to this bill that is currently before the legislature. But thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
To make that in the form of a motion, Councilor?
I would like to make that, if somebody could,
Sorry, you're
I'm
not
not
on-
on the committee.
Somebody make that for Councilor?
So move.
Thank you. You heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Mr. Smith, thank you for caring. You've always been the type that leads by caring, and appreciate all your energy. And Mrs. Smith, thank you. Any other comments, George?
Just a couple. The cutting through that boulderwood to create that roadway, the water that comes out of there, the way I understood the way the water flows through the city, the aquifer that aquifer is part of our drinking system. Because that water went down through down towards Brown Pond and our supply underground. That's where our water was coming from. So that's been disrupted. So how that's going to affect the future use of our drinking water, I don't know. But it's something to keep in mind. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. If it's okay, we'd like to modify the motion by Councilor McGinn. It was Councilor Turco's suggestion to include the entire state delegation. He's not on the committee, so I just... Sorry? I thought it was Councilor McGinn. Whatever. Councilor Sharris, co-motion with Councilor Sharris and Councilor McGinn, to include the state delegation, not just Councilor Walsh, not just Representative Walsh. Is there anything else in committee you would like to speak about? There being none, take a motion to adjourn, please. Motion to adjourn, please. Thank you.
Sorry.